All right, good afternoon. My name is Anne-Marie Vito. I want to welcome you to Mesabi Community College and the 2022 Candidates Forum. Today's event is hosted by the Virginia Area Affiliate of the AAUW, which stands for the American Association of University Women. In 1881, a small group of female college graduates banded together to open doors for women's career advancement and to encourage more women to pursue higher education. Today, AAUW's values are nonpartisan, fact-based, principled, inclusive, and intersectional. Approximately 170,000 AAUW members and supporters work together as part of 1,000 local branches. These members champion economic security by narrowing the gender pay gap, advocate for equal opportunities through education, and support laws and policies that enable women's success. Members of the Virginia AAUW branch include the following women, several of whom are in attendance. As I read their names, I ask that they please stand or give a wave. Marcia Aluni, Mary Lou Conaway, Chris Culbert, Mary Erickson, Joe Johnson, Marietta Johnson, Lisa Meinert, Jean Mel George, Christy Ungalo, Susie Pearsall, Carol Peterson, Kathy Priest, Manette Richards, Kristen Simonson, Carol Sunquist, Pat Tamminen, Anne-Marie Vito, and Deb Warner. In this collegiate setting, it's fitting to highlight that AAUW has awarded more than $135 million in fellowships and grants to more than 13,000 scholars and organizations, making AAUW one of the largest scholarship programs for women in the world. And finally, in recognition of the importance of laws and policies to advance equal opportunity and economic security, we're looking forward to hearing from these candidates for the offices of Mayor and City Council for the City of Virginia. So let's get started. It's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today, Mary McReynolds.
Thank you, Mary. Anne-Marie, thanks. Thanks everyone for coming today, and especially as a former counselor, I really appreciate the time and effort that our candidates have made to come and answer some questions for us. I'd like to introduce them to you. Running for mayor is the current mayor, Larry Cuffey, and Councilor Steve Johnson. And our city council candidates are Laura Bachschneider, Councilor Charlie Baraboo, Councilor Maya Biondich, Councilor Gary Friedlieb, and Bob Henderson. Liz Motley is also a candidate. She was not able to attend today. She did submit some answers to the questions that we will have, so I will read those off for you so you can get a little more familiar with her as well. Each candidate will be allowed 2 minutes for a brief introduction, and then we have 6 questions that have been developed by the AAUW members. Each candidate then will have 2 minutes to answer. And after the final question, we'll have a brief Q&A and open it up for the audience. Candidates will be called upon randomly, first of all, by the mayor, candidates, and then the councilors. And our timer today is Mary Lou Conaway, so thank you. When you hear the bell, I think we've got bells now instead of buzzers. We'll be doing well. Okay, a brief introduction, 2 minutes each, please. Please address, if you are new, why you decided to run, and if you're an incumbent, what you consider to be your greatest contribution to serving. And we'll start with Mayor Cuffey.
Well, thank you, everybody, and thanks for coming to this forum. And I want to thank the American Association of University Women for sponsoring this forum. I think it's very important for people to see all the candidates in here in person, their goals and duties and responsibilities and what they have planned for the community. So I'm the current mayor of Virginia, served 2 terms. I'm a third-generation Virginia resident. I was raised in Midway to a family of 6, 4 boys and mom and dad. Virginia Roosevelt High School, Mesaba Community College. And as I was moving on in my college career, unfortunately, I was drafted into the military. I decided to enlist, so I was a military veteran for 4 years. I've been a 35-year retired police officer. I work in the private sector for a security agency in investigations and other aspects of that facility. I'm a member of a large number of volunteer and service organizations. I've served the citizens of Virginia in this capacity since 2010 and served as the mayor for the last 2 terms. And so that's my background, and the reason that I'm running, I'm currently the incumbent mayor. I'm going to read this because it's important that I get this exactly right, because this really comes from my heart. I seek public office for one reason, and one reason only, and that is to serve the citizens of Virginia and work to help make the city a better place and a safer place to live and work. I'm fortunate and grateful to live here, to work here, and to have been educated here. These are my roots, and I have prepared myself in life of gratitude and service as a result of the service and the education, the guidance I've received from my teachers and members of this community and former city councilors and mayors. We have a generous and compassionate community, and we see that every single day, filled with volunteers and leaders. Our job as a city council, my job as the mayor, to facilitate that, to help them, provide them with every service that they have that's available for us. So I would like to continue to be a part of this community organization. It is my home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Cuffey. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, and thank you to the AAUW for hosting a much-needed event. And many thanks for all of you for showing up and taking an interest in local government, and all those watching online as well. My name is Stephen B. Johnson, and I am running to be mayor of City of Virginia. I am first and foremost the proud father of 3 children. I also serve as a foster and respite provider for St. Louis County. I've been a city council member for 6 years and have served on Parks and Rec Commission and continue to be active in nonprofit and other government organizations. One of my goals when I was first elected was to increase the access to local government. This was accomplished by providing live streaming via the web. As of May 2019, almost all of our committee and council meetings are available on Virginia's YouTube channel. You can visit us live or watch archived meetings. I believe my greatest contribution as a council member has been continually striving for transparent, honest discussions and communication. I try to be sure that I am including all voices, that all people have the opportunity to communicate. Prior to the COVID shutdown, I had established office hours at City Hall where I was available to chat. I plan to continue that moving forward. As mayor, I will be better able to facilitate respectful transparency and genuine honesty during meetings of all types. My intentions are to listen, to learn, and to lead effectively. Thank you.
Bring the mic down. Next, let me know too if you want the question repeated. Next is Ms. Bachschneider.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to AAUW and everyone for being here today. My name is Laura Summers Bachschneider. I grew up on the north side of Virginia, kitty corner from the New Catholic Church. I didn't know it was a new church. I thought that was the new church, but the old one was up the street. So I learned that while I was out door knocking. I'm the youngest child of Roger and Carol Summers. I graduated from Virginia High School in 1986. I went to Mesabi for a year, and then I got my bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin-Stout. I've been married to my husband, Paul, for almost 25 years. I say almost because it will be next week. It'll be our 25th anniversary. We have 2 daughters. We have Annie, who is a foundation associate at Essentia. She's married to Nate. He works for sales in Metro Sales. And then we have our sweet daughter, Holly, who is teaching kindergarten at Parkview here in Virginia. I'm lucky. My kids live here, and I get to see them all the time, so I'm very lucky about that. I've been a social worker for 32 years for St. Louis County. I've served on numerous community, school, medical, and civic boards, including the VRMC Foundation, the PTA, Festival of Trees. I've been involved with the Virginia Community Foundation for the last 10 years, and I'm serving as the current board chair right now. We now live on the south side with our little dog, Bo. I'm often asked, why are you putting yourself out there? This is a thankless job. The bottom line is simple. I don't want to complain about problems or imagine solutions from the comfort of my couch. I want a seat at the table to be a part of real change and accountability. I have no hidden agendas, I have no conflicts of interest, and I will bring a fresh perspective. I have served the community for decades through multiple boards, and this is my opportunity to use my unique set of skills to get things done.
Thank you. Councillor Baraboo?
Well, thank you. Wasn't sure it was on. Can you hear me out there?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Charlie Baraboo. I've been a city councilor since 1990 here in Virginia. So I served 26 years on the city council here in Virginia. I'm actually a transplant from Illinois. I came here 47 years ago, and I've been here ever since. I have 3 children, all grown. I have 8 grandchildren that are very active in their communities. I have a number of things that I've been a part of. The first thing and the reason I ran originally was to put brand new streets in the city of Virginia. We put $50 million plus another 22 in the last 2 years, and we've got another $22 million scheduled for 24, 25, and into 1926. It takes about 2 years to get the programs together to do. I'm a graduate of NDSU College of Pharmacy in Fargo, North Dakota. I spent 40 years in the pharmacy business as a pharmacist. I'm retired now, but I still keep active in the RAMS organization, the Range Association of Municipalities and Schools. I've been president, vice president, and served at least 8 or 9 years now on that board of 24 people. We do all kinds of lobbying and stuff for the city of Virginia at the state level, through RAMS and for 7 counties in northern Minnesota to try to get mining and everything else up here, which is working very, very well. Been integral in the ITMEC building, the new miners building, to get that through. We're looking at all kinds of new development coming to Virginia. I was instrumental in the 53 highway. We had a big committee that took and rerouted that, and I'm responsible for that committee. If it weren't for myself and that committee, we wouldn't have 53 through Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Biondich?
Thank you.
Just hold it closer to you.
Thank you.
There.
Is that better?
That's
Okay.
much better. Thank you.
My name is Maya Biondich, and I am just finishing my first term as a city councilor. I grew up in Mount Iron. I am one of 14 children, and that is where I have learned how to negotiate and how to compromise. We live on North Side. I have had Silver Lake Floral for the past 24 years before finally selling the building, fortunately, to the Virginia Community Foundation, where they are taking very good care of it. I'm going to stop, because the next is for the next question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Friedley?
Good afternoon, and thank you for attending. This is my first term as a city councilor. The reason I got involved is I actually got a phone call from my oldest son who said, "Did you hear that Nevada Little Wolf is leaving the council? I think you should apply for that position." And I was like, "Why?" And he said, "Because I think you'd be good at it and you'd have something to add to it." So I said, "I'll give it a shot." So I applied and went to the city council, where they gave us the opportunity to make a presentation to them. I sat in the back and allowed the other 6 people to go ahead of me. And while I was listening to those 6 people, a couple of times I thought to myself, he'd be really good for that position. Why am I even here? Or she'd be really good for that position. Why am I here? And then I didn't hear for a couple of days as to what was going on. And I gave Mayor Cuffey a call and I said, "Who was selected for that position?" And he said, "Well, you were, Gary." And I'm like, "Well, that's great. Thanks for the opportunity." In any event, I found it to be a challenging position and a rewarding position. I'm not a good extemporaneous speaker. I'm finding that out.
Do we lose the mic?
Excuse me.
I
Can
think,
you hear me?
no. There's,
Hello. My past experience has been primarily as an administrator in the school district, which gave me experience in, being involved in the public realm. The one thing that I think has been something that I brought to the council is to establish what I think is mutually respectful relationships with each of my colleagues on the council, which I think has been allowing for us to have conversations and debate without any animosity, which I think has led to spirited discussions that then have led to professionally prepared resolutions, and I think overall progress for the city. I was involved in the project for the new arena. I was involved in the ongoing project that we have going for the public safety building, all of which I think are critical to the city of Virginia. And so anyhow, I appreciate your support and for being here, and thank you much.
Thank you. And Mr. Henderson.
Yes, thank you again for inviting us here. The genuine interest from community members and from your group that sponsored this for us. I was born and raised on the north side, and I still live on the north side. I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of this city and what it presents. I have 6 years previous council experience, a 2-year term because one of the councilors had passed away. That was in 91 to 93, and then I had a 4-year term from 98 to 2001. And it was quite an enlightening experience. You learn a lot. It's not an easy position to be in. Rarely do you get a pat on the back, but you do get a nice, friendly, good job once in a while. I served, I served in the Army Guard for 7 years. I was a supervisor at U.S. Steel, so I know how to deal with people and problems, and believe it, I dealt with a lot of problems over the 37 and a half years that I worked there. But it was a very enlightening experience. I'm excited. I hope I get back on the council again because there's some things that went away over the years, and I truly believe they were good working programs, and I really think we should work hard on getting those back. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you. And then from Liz Motley, she says she was inspired to run for office having been exposed to over a decade of evolving problems she's witnessed firsthand in our small 7-bed emergency room department, constantly inundated with overflowing drug addiction, alcoholism, mental health, and non-acute medical conditions, jeopardizing available beds. Thank you. Okay, now for the questions. Question number 1. What would you do to help bring businesses to Virginia? Do you have suggestions for a business going into the old fire hall once it is vacated? And we will start with Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. And I just want to thank everybody sitting at this table. You can tell we're all real people, a little bit nervous, and this is what we do. So to answer the question, bringing a business into town is not as simple as just putting up a sign and hoping they show up. Currently, the city partners with Revive, VITA, the Department of Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation, and private entities to retain our current businesses by helping with energy efficiency. Things like windows and doors and roofs and plumbing and insulation. Things to help the businesses be sustainable so that they can spend their money on making their businesses look nice. Retaining business is as important as attracting new ones. So far, the downtown partnerships have helped 21 individual businesses in the first 2 phases, and there are 9 new businesses that are planning to receive support in phase 3. So work is being done currently downtown. A healthy business community welcomes and supports new development. That takes time and effort. Many of our newest businesses go unnoticed as they are service and support to other industries. Businesses like retail stores and restaurants take time and significant research to ensure success. The city, in partnership with organizations like the Chamber, have information packets ready for interested parties that want to invest in our community. An example of this investment is going to be a new hotel next to the new event center. Opportunities for our existing new businesses will expand with creative use of our available properties and lands as we all seek to see growth. The future of the fire hall has not been determined at this time. It is my intention to include the public as we move forward to see what happens to the fire hall. And I do welcome any input at that time when we're looking for help on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Cuffey?
Thank you. Well, this is a very difficult and arduous process moving forward. And I see that a former mayor and city council is sitting in the audience today, and that's Mr. Louis Russo, who served in the capacity as mayor and the council, and he knows how difficult it is. And we have to take a look and recognize the legacy of our former city councilors moving forward, because it's important. They've laid the foundation for where the city is today. Our job, everybody sitting at this table, everybody's gonna be elected. Our job is to make sure we carry on the traditions of the former councilors and the mayors as they set the foundation for us. But the city of Virginia is landlocked. The challenge is to identify and utilize all the available space that we have. We don't have any place to outgrow, so we have to be innovative in our business model. We are challenged by a limited transportation mechanism, networks that are directly connected to the multi-state infrastructure. Many of the parcels that we have want to develop have environmental issues. In some cases, they are extremely expensive and problematic and required by the MPCA to remediate, and it's just too costly. It's not cost effective to do that. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars, as evidenced by a couple of issues that we have currently going on today, which is a significant weight on our ability to finance other projects. So we have problems with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. We have problems with the Minnesota Department of Management and Budget, but we're trying to overcome that. And we have seen many successful ventures in recent past, some large companies, some local companies, but more are forthcoming. You can see some of the streets on the main street of Virginia, some businesses there. We're hoping that once built, many of these available resources will be able to retain them. But what's important is we need a public-private partnership, and that's with Revive Virginia, the Community Foundation, VITA, the Virginia Economic Development Authority, the City of Virginia, and the IEEE, who already have invested money moving forward. So that's how we attract businesses and keep them.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Baraboo?
Hi, there's been a lot of stuff done in the city of Virginia since my tenure on the city council of 26 years. Number one, we need to take a look at our website and get that located all over the state as much as we can, but all the potential businesses can arrive in this community. We also act as a financial pass-through for loans and dollars for businesses that want to come to Virginia. If they get an okay for loans from the IRRB, we become a pass-through for the dollars. Doesn't cost the city anything, but we use the money because government agency to government agency has to be used when government agencies give money to small businesses or whatever. We need to look at every available piece of land that we have in this community and look to see what we have. We have an inventory of land and available land that we've put together over the years. This is not an easy task. We have buildings that we've had to take down. We've taken down over 110 buildings in this community that are either blight or issues that need to be fixed. This gives us space so where we can put some new businesses if we can get the funding to help them. We have some programs in place right now that are wonderful. We have entities out there that will help us with dollars that need to come forward for the city of Virginia. But the major thing is we need to work with the IRRB. They've given us all the money and stuff, which we helped to get the schools through in this area. The city was a great integral part. We gave the land to the school for $50,000 that was estimated to be worth an appraisal of over $1 million. So that's what we did, and their costs on top of that, so it's about $100,000 the school got that for 3 new schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Biondich?
Thank you. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. What would you do to help bring business to Virginia? Do you have any suggestions for a business going into the old fire hall once it is vacated?
The fire hall is will maybe be a challenge. We have learned that there are some issues that need to be taken care of. As a council, we have talked about what that building could be used for. Years ago, when I opened Silver Lake Floral, I belonged to the Heart of Virginia, which was a great organization, and that really did try to help bring things to the downtown area. I have visited other communities where I have asked to speak with the mayor, with the council, and their community developer to see how they do things so we can bring that back to our city and see if it would work. Some things will, some things won't. I also belong, since I've been on the council, I belong to VITA and VETA, where we can see things come from the ground up. They administer grants and help with the funding for new businesses. So that's exciting to see. We often hear of things that are coming before it's out to the public. Thank you.
And just for folks that don't know, VITA is the
Virginia Economic Development
And
Authority, and VETA, we work with EVLIS, so it's the Virginia EVLIS. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Friedli.
I don't know if you know or not, but we had a very competent and experienced city planner that we hired who we recently lost. So I think it's imperative for the city to find a new city planner as soon as possible to help coordinate and focus on the rehabilitation of existing Chestnut Street buildings. I think the Armory is something that could be rehabilitated into something that maybe even a restaurant or a brewery type thing that would sit next to the new hotel that's going to be built where the old miners is going to be situated. The fire hall I have questions about because I know that there's structural integrity issues there. My understanding is tentatively we're going to probably be using it primarily for storage of existing apparatus that we have that won't necessarily fit in the new building. And then we have that Midway development site that I think we also have to look at creating something up there as well, which would take some kind of conversations with the Minnesota Department of Transportation to create access to that area. And so having a planner to coordinate those kinds of efforts, I think, are critical. And I think we need to seek to increase our retail sites, develop restaurants and eateries and social gathering places, and promote private sector to invest and minimize cost prohibitive regulations. For example, I know there's a guy in town that bought the old Masonic Lodge, I believe it is looking to start a brewery there, was told that he's gonna have to put in a sprinkling system that's gonna cost potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. When something's been sitting in the city for 100+ years without any kind of issues that would have arisen, some kind of concern with regard to fire safety, I don't know that they should have to put in those kind of contemporary items in their buildings. Whether that's reasonable or not, it seems cost prohibitive. And instead of creating obstacles for investment in the city, I think we need to clear pathways for people to be able to get things accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Henderson?
Yes, as you've heard from several of the people sitting up here, all of the problems that need to be worked through to get a new business to come to this community. As I was going around door to door, a lot of the women complained about the fact that they didn't have a quality clothing store here anymore, and they were just almost weeping because of the fact that we couldn't get them here. Others complained because there wasn't new places to eat anywhere around this area. And I said, it'd be wonderful to get that. I know from being a past counselor that any business that wants to come into town, they ask you, what can you do for us to get you there? They always ask for some sort of package. They're not gonna come in and pay for the whole thing themselves. So we have to work with the people. We have to work with different groups. We have to look for the different financing from wherever it comes from to get businesses to come into town. And we also need to get out there and promote the city of Virginia as a place to come and do business and a place to live and a place to raise your family and just enjoy life. Just the simple, good quality life that we do have here in Virginia.
Thank you. Ms. Bachschneider?
Along with my family, I used to own Country Roads, the little church in Angora. So I do have some knowledge of running a small business. I also have a little craft business out of my house, Crafty Bee. So I have a little bit of a very small business background, and so I do know what it takes to make it work, and it takes a lot of hard work. But what I think is that Virginia just really needs a clear vision for our future. We need to engage our leaders. We need to engage the overall community. I agree with what many said up here about we need to inventory our assets. We need to shape a plan around that. We have a lot. We have some very distinguishable assets, including the ITMEC. We have some beautiful historical buildings. We have lovely geography. We have to use education. We have to use incentives, relationships, partnerships to encourage high-quality developments. This effort should include our community development planners at both the city and the county level. We need to look at sharing. What does this look like? We need Agreed, the council, the mayor, VITA, Revive. I'm proud to be a part of the Virginia Community Foundation, where we've been able to partner with the city to get grants when they need a nonprofit status. So I know firsthand how much work it is, and easy to say, oh my gosh, this is just too much work, let's just walk away. But no, we want to do this, we're going to do it, and we're going to figure it out together. There's a lot of new programs, Minnesota DEED program. Virginia was awarded quite a bit of money from that due to the unfortunate fire downtown. So we were able to assist with that. So that's been a firsthand view of how that process all works. As far as the fire hall, it's beautiful. My understanding is that at this time, the city's planning on using that as storage because of all the problems you already heard about. But it would be great as a pub or a little wedding venue.
Thank you. And then from Ms. Motley, she says, and I quote, I would promote our city with the rich wealth it has to offer families with outdoor recreation, restore downtown, and invest in our community to improve the business district, community, and industry. Business opportunities are endless for the fire hall if preserving the building a historic marker or museum. Were her thoughts. The next question is, what do you believe is the greatest threat or threats to the well-being of our community? And we'll start with Mayor Cuffey.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I have to answer this question. We all do. It's significant, the threats to our community. And I wouldn't look at it as threats. I would look at it more challenges moving forward. But if we don't do something with all these things, it could devastate the infrastructure of our community. The loss of local government aid. We get $6.2 million this year in local government aid from the state. There are some communities trying to challenge that down the metro to remove the local government aid from our ability to receive it. That's $6.2 million on our budget. Also, we have fiscal disparities. So what we get is a complicated formula. The business model comes in, the rise of infrastructure, how the worth of these businesses, they go in this pool, goes down the state, they spit out a formula, and this year we're getting $1.2 million, $1.25 million in fiscal disparities. So that's a lot of money we could lose if we don't move forward and band together and go down that legislature and use our lobbyists to prevent that from happening. The downturn, any shutdown in the mining industry, that's a big threat. That could happen to some degree moving forward if we don't have some labor agreements. Loss of any rise in cost of reimbursement for advanced life support, our ambulance service. We have about $2.4 million that we're supplementing for our ambulance service to provide advanced life support ambulance care for the cities and citizens of Virginia. We only get reimbursed $16 a run from St. Louis County, and there's no state reimbursement for that. And Medicare only reimburses us approximately $400 per run, and that doesn't cover the cost of anything we do. So that is a big problem too. Aging housing stock, that's a problem. We need a housing in the single rate market, multi-unit housing, and we need some senior housing. We don't have a rental code ordinance, compliance and enforcement. We have to have that. So we'll have that by January 1st, hopefully, through the hard work of planning and zoning. That could be a threat if we don't get that done. And I got a lot of other things to say about it, but my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Cuffey. Mr. Johnson, Councilor
Thank you.
Johnson.
The greatest threat to the well-being of this community is doing nothing. When people sit around and point out all is wrong and broken, we get really good at sitting around and pointing out what is wrong and broken. As a mayor, I can help avoid the apathy by listening to the community as we establish a written vision and mission statement for the city of Virginia. I will seek out suggestions from citizens, our employees, our visitors in open meetings, and I'd like to set course with the council for the city over the next 4+ years. It is much more efficient for an organization and effective for an organization the size of Virginia to head in a common direction when there is a goal to move towards. We need to be looking forward while learning and improving from the past. The city has changed course, but what is the direction? By having a vision and mission statement, the city and its partners can continue to improve the climate for our local existing and new businesses. We can continue to work with other local government agencies to improve public safety. We can seek out funding to improve the downtown with pocket parks, new traffic controls, signage to welcome visitors from the Mesabi and ATV trails. Finally, we need to take the time to celebrate our accomplishments. We need to celebrate our staff, our partnerships, and celebrate you, our citizens, as a community as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Biondich.
Thank you. And I would echo what the mayor is saying. Our biggest threat to the city is the LGA and the cuts that could take place. We count on that money. I also think we need to be looking at our budget and saving money where we can in case we ever have to take those cuts, we still have to be able to operate. We also need to stay in touch with our government officials that fight for our money when they go down and they work to get money for the city. The lobbyist that works for the city of Virginia, we now have monthly reports from him so we can see where they are working and what they are bringing back to the city. And we need to save money on, we need to find out what the priorities are for our taxpayers. What are your priorities? What are we subsidizing? What's important to you? I've been involved with our fire department and the shared fire service in the city, where we are working with Mountain Iron to see what we can share and where we can each save money. And I think we're all in that state of we need to start working together. We need to start pooling our resources. We need to start pooling our equipment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Henderson. No, I'm sorry, Councilor Friedlieb.
Well, I'm shooting from the hip today. I didn't prepare statements as well as everybody else did, and I'm not sure why I didn't. I guess I thought I'd do better than I am. But in any event, I think our perception that things are worse than they really are is the biggest threat to this community. I really don't think they're as bad as we're hearing that they are. Even when you talk in terms of like the uptick in crime, my perception is typically when a crime is committed in this community, it's between two, for lack of a better term, idiots that know each other, and they're harming each other, and it's really no direct threat to the rest of us as far as I'm concerned. Case in point, for example, my wife and I have been walking around town for exercise for the last couple decades, and there's not a square inch in town that we've ever been fearful of walking, and there's never been anybody that's ever accosted us, and other than the other day somebody asked us if we had a lighter that they could use. I mean, there are people out on the street that take you back, but you know, those are people that are in our town that are actually our neighbors and our family members and sisters and brothers, and we shouldn't have to fear them. I mean, they want the same things that we do. They want to have, you know, their basic needs met, and they want to have a sense of belonging. And so anyhow, I guess I'm kind of the mind where, you know, I feel safe in this community. I have 3 sons that I raised in this community. They came back to this town. 2 of them are married now. We have a grandson now. And they feel safe in this community. They had wonderful role models that they grew up with throughout their lifetimes. And they're trying to be that now for other people in the schools where they teach or in the businesses that they work with. And I feel like, you know, we talk about this town. They also, the other day somebody said, well, it's turning into a ghetto. Yeah, we have old stock housing. The reality is it's not necessarily because people are neglecting things. There's a lot of older people that are on, subsistence incomes that really can't do the things that they used to do. And so pointing our fingers at like how bad something looks, I don't think is really beneficial to any of us as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Henderson?
Well, I have to say, first of all, crime. We don't hear a lot about that in the community. And I don't think people should be fearful of that. We should know what's going on in the community, have a better idea. I agree with the comment that was made about lack of good affordable housing. I've been told that there's actively drug sales on Main Street on any given day. And they have a sophisticated system set up so that they know when the police are going to be around, so they're gone, they vanish. We don't really have a control over that. I agree with the fact that we're losing money from the state. We shouldn't have to go down to St. Paul and fight. We lost two of the most powerful legislators for the Iron Range, Mr. Bach and Mr. Tomasoni. They wielded a big hammer down there and they got a lot of money for our area. We shouldn't be sitting at a $9.5 billion budget down in St. Paul, a tax budget. I firmly believe that they really don't care about us. And I've heard that from several people. I just don't think it's right that, well, anybody sitting here, you can correct me. The years 12, 13, and 14, there was no local government aid that came into the city at all, correct? Am I wrong? Is that right? That's a lot of money lost. And so this council, the people that are serving on this council have had to try to work with lost dollars and keep things going. And they've done a good job of it, but we can't afford to keep going backwards. And like I say again, we shouldn't have to fight for every dollar that we want to get. It should be coming to us. Those are taconite tax dollars, the majority of them. And we live in the taconite tax area.
Thank you. Ms. Bachschneider? No. Was it? No.
Okay, how about this one?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'm going to go with the debt load that the city currently has as our biggest threat. Currently, we have about $55 million of debt. About $24 million of that is the IPMEC, which doesn't concern me as much because the sales tax is paying for that. We're looking at incurring some more debt, about $20-30 million for the new public safety building. We're looking at a bond issue for next year for equipment and other capital items. And we're also looking at an additional bond for the 2023 street improvement project. The city provided testimony to increase so we could to increase our debt limit, what it allows, and that scares me. The bond rating isn't great. It's costing us more money to borrow. Per the audit report, there's the 5 funds have deficit balances. The Golf Course Enterprise Fund had almost a $90,000 loss. Clinic Facility Capital Lease Agreement, that's about $903,000. It's just the asset is depreciating faster rate than the principal. Let's see, the sales tax goes to pay for the IPMEC building, but not the operating costs. That also worries me. I understand and appreciate it takes time to take this and to build it and to get a profit rolling. But my concern is that the proposed budget is not taking into account for that. Like, just like at home, if your car blows up, i.e. the IPMEC is costing more than maybe you plan, you need to cut back somewhere else. And I just don't see us cutting back other places. And that scares me, it concerns me, just like it would concern me at home. Without the adequate funds, the city can't function, and the services that we all expect and we value, they're going to be in jeopardy. I agree with the LGA. I agree we need to band together and get the money that we deserve, absolutely. But we can't keep pulling money from our investments in an attempt to balance the budget, and we can't rely on the contingency fund for non-budgeted and non-emergency items.
Thank you. Councillor Baraboo?
Well, this brings us to an interesting dilemma in this conversation right here. Number one, it's required by state law that the city has a balanced budget, which we do every single year. Granted, some of those funds show shortages, but we're not borrowing big-time money. The ITMIC is all paid for. The sales tax is way ahead of time. I just have to let you know, if we didn't balance budget each time there's a big fine and stuff from the state of Minnesota, our budget is balanced every single year. Now, the taxes are going to go up in the city next year, so be prepared. I'm going to tell you straight out. And that's one of the big issues that's going to happen. The funds for local government aid, if they don't have a special session, that's going down the tubes. So they were going to have an increase for us. If no special session is called, they'll have to bring it all back in the new session. Same thing with the other government disparities aids. That's going to be a big cut for next year because the mining companies have been down, not producing enough tax dollars. One of the big issues we have to face is our subsidy to our ambulance service. Here's the solution for it, and I'm going to give you the solution. We need to propose and get through either a taxing district or go to every community that we subsidize with our services. We have 26 mutual aid agreements with all the entities around where we go and we do stuff for them when there's fires, ambulance service, et cetera, for free. We have the only ALS service in 504 square miles. We go out to 900 and some square miles for intercepts. Without that ALS, people would die of heart attacks because regular EMS and stuff cannot give medications. We need to go after either a subscription plan from all these communities or a taxing district. But we need to get everybody in all these communities to agree and have huge meetings. We can't continue to subsidize for over a couple $1 million every year from the citizens of Virginia. It's only going to increase your tax rates. Thank you.
Thank you. And from Ms. Motley, her comments on this are, I'm concerned about our community, both the aging population and newer generations, from a healthcare and safety standpoint. The overwhelming war on drugs has created barriers within our community, economy, and healthcare systems. I cannot emphasize the importance of addressing the growing concerns for the future of Virginia. I want to clean up our city and restore pride to the people who call this home. Okay, the next question. What are the strengths that you bring to public service? And we'll start with Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. I believe my greatest strength of public service is my involvement within the city and the community. I spent a day recently at the new Iron Trail Motors Event Center alongside the utility workers. I spent 8 hours cleaning lockers and scrubbing black marks off of the ice, off of the boards. It was an eye-opening amount of work that is done on the day-to-day routine, not including what's done during special events. I am an active supporter of our public safety staff. I have been on multiple ride-alongs with both fire and the police department. I have been privileged enough to be on EMS transfers and emergency runs. One of the most interesting things I got to do a couple years ago was to go for a swim in Bailey's in Silver Lake in February. They suited me up and had me save a firefighter who was drowning. It was an amazing experience, but it also opened my eyes to the extreme professionals we have working in our community. My police ride-alongs have shown me how safe and in very capable hands our city is. When driving down 2nd Avenue at 3 o'clock in the morning, any officer I rode with was able to identify Bob, who just got out of treatment and starts a job next week, or Sue, who just cleared up her warrants. I've also been able to see Nick and K9 Teddy search and find illegal substances in a car. I have witnessed our officers and actively engaged in proactive community policing and have been able to ask them questions while it's happening. I am a hands-on learner. I learn best by experiencing and listening to the experts in the field. The city has amazing employees that I know and that know what they are doing. As mayor, I will continue to listen, continue to learn, and continue to lead with the information that is presented to me.
Thank you. Mayor Cuffey?
Well, thank you. The question is, what are the strengths you bring to public service? The strength is the community. I care about people. I believe in this community. I'm in the office every single day. 12 years as an elected official, 35 years in the public sector. I try to stay educated on the issues. I do not give up. I work hard every day to help resolve the concerns and mitigate conflict, no matter what the complaint is, no matter what the issue is, no matter what the concern is by someone else. I try to follow up on every one of those calls for service. I drive with citizens over the weekend on a variety of issues. They point out those things to me, and we try to get it done through the staff that we have, and they're very professional to do it. I have very much good knowledge in economic development. I'm a strong proponent for the diverse workforce and strong business and cultural living in this community. We need to establish relationships with outstate legislators, testimony at the legislature. I've done that. I'm a champion for safety and security. I have experience in public safety. I have the compassion, and I do, and I think many of these people in the community do. We have the compassion for the less fortunate and willingness to help them and to use our personal resources in which to do so. That's a community bond. I believe in that, I'm a part of that, and I participated in that. And I'm approachable. You can call me anytime. My cell phone is on the website. My cell phone is on my telephone if I'm not in the office. You can call me anytime, day or night. I'm committed to this community. I live and work in this community, educated in this community, and I will be living in this community until I die. And hopefully that's 55 years from now. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Friedlieb? Maya, could you? Thank you.
You know, my strengths, you know, anytime you talk about yourself, you feel like you're bragging about something, and I don't feel comfortable with that. But I did spend my entire career serving families and children and taking a vested interest in those families and those children, and particularly helping them realize what their strengths were to help them be successful in whatever they were seeking to endeavor. And I think sitting on the city council, same thing. I have interest in this community and the people that are here. I think the most valuable asset that we have in this city are the people in this city. And I think one of the things that we're struggling with is communications in this city. You know, you hear the fake news aspect, and it's like people hear things that aren't necessarily true. And I kind of touched on that earlier, and I just lost my notes again, so I'm stumbling along up here. But in any event, the strength I bring is that I care about you, I care about your family, and I care about your kids, and I want people to be safe and comfortable and secure in this community, and trust that I have the judgment to assist you in that effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Henderson?
Well, I've passed council experience, and with that comes the ability to work with everybody in the community to deal with issues that come before us. I'm a good listener. In fact, if you ask my wife, she says I'm a pro at selective hearing. I have a real compassion for people. I feel for the underprivileged in this community. I had the pleasure last night of our group of serving for the fire, the annual fire thing. And it's wonderful to see those people come through the line, and they're all they have very good manners. It's unbelievable. I do have a strong ability to work with anyone. If we disagree at a meeting, we can walk out the door and shake hands. I don't harbor any hatred or anything like that towards anybody. I want to, if I get on the council, I have the time. I want to spend the time, and I want to work with everybody. We can come to an agreement for the best, which is best for all the citizens of Virginia.
Thank you. Ms. Bachschneider?
I would think that all of us have a lot of strengths here. I mean, just that we're here and that we want to help our community. I think that speaks for everybody. And I think you all have strengths that you gave up your afternoon to come and listen to us. But I'll talk about me because that's what I'm supposed to do right now. I've spent my entire adult life in public service. I watched my father be a police officer, learned from his role modeling. I've served in several capacities in different roles. I've learned a lot of things. I have a pretty thick skin. I can cut through it and get to the issue. I'm a very skilled mediator. I listen, I consider the pros and the cons, but at the end of the day, I can make a decision. I'm not afraid to ask questions, and I have no qualms asking the questions and getting those answers verified until I'm sure I understand. I'm honest, and I'm gonna not tell you what you think just to avoid a conflict, but you can do it with kindness and you can do it with compassion. And I agree with what Mr. Henderson said. At the end of the day, we all want what's best for the city, and that's why we're here, is because this is what we really want.
Thank you. Councillor Baraboo?
Thank you. One of the most important things that I bring to this city, and I'm going to tell you straight out, is 26 years of experience with background that's gone through from 1990 until present. Things have changed tremendously, but I do one thing as a counselor. I'm an open book. All my numbers for people to reach me are my own numbers, home numbers, emails. They're all public. I don't know of any other counselor that has the same things that I do. There are some that do, but not to the extent I do. I look at things 5 and 10 years down the road. If we make a decision here today, you better look 5 years down to more to make sure that you're not going to run into a problem with the decision you've made here. I already told you about Highway 53. They wanted to go Highway 37. If we hadn't put that together and looked what would happen 5 or 10 years down the road with business, that highway would not have been here. We have tons of unfunded mandates that we need to get rid of. Our budget has to be into the state or the county by September 30th. We cannot raise the levy anymore after that date, but we get all these unfunded mandates from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, every agency down there, that we don't have funds from the state to pay for. So we got to make adjustments to our budget all the time. And that's something that is interesting to do. Our crime rate is actually down in Virginia, believe it or not. It was 13,000 plus more things a number of years ago, a couple of years ago. Now it's down to under 9,000, or right around 9,000. So we're down in this community. I know all the state, county officials around for getting things done through the county level, the state level, and RAMS is your place to go. We have a lobbyist. They go after everything that helps the 7 counties in northern Minnesota, including the Virginia area, for broadband, et cetera, of things we need to get done up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Biondich?
Thank you. It has been my privilege to be on this council. When I was elected, I didn't quite know what to expect. I have learned a lot. I believe one of my strengths is being able to connect with people. You won't believe this, but when I was in high school, I was the shyest person in the room. And here I sit. Through having a business for all those years, I was able to talk to a lot of people. They shared a lot of their stories with me. So when I decided to run, I also did it in honor of my mom. I feel like I need to, sorry.
That's okay.
There are a lot of people out there, elderly people, people have misfortunes happen to them, and they feel like they have nobody. I have that voice. They can talk to me. I have people call me with concerns, and sometimes, yes, at a meeting, it is a pain when I bring them up. But those are concerns of my constituents, and I will stand up for them. And I believe that's one of my greatest strengths on the council. Thank you.
Thank you. And then from Ms. Motley, she says, if given the opportunity to be a council member, no one will work harder than me. I'm dedicated to making this city better and our community stronger. I love Virginia. Thanks. Question number 4. What do you see is the biggest challenge for the homeless? Oops, wait a minute. Yeah, for the homeless in our community. What would you do to correct this? We'll start with Mr. Henderson.
The biggest challenge, acceptance in the community. Our group, Friends of Public Safety, at our last meeting, the police resource officer reported to us that there were around 100 homeless people living in this area here. And they had all been contacted and all been given places to go and stay, and also help, any type of help that was needed, mental health or whatever, and they all refused. They didn't want it. So, like he said, we can't force them. But I do think our upcoming weather will probably force them inside someplace. They're not gonna survive outside. We know that. I guess I just don't know what to do, as a city councilor, unless we were asked to maybe provide a warming shelter for them in the winter, or try to set up some mental health help for them, working alongside the police department. I think they've done a wonderful job so far. I don't think this is ever going to end. I think we're going to continue to have more and more of it. It's been going on for several years now, down in the end of the main street in the woods down there, and up towards some of the industries that are in that area there. They're not causing any trouble from what I understand. They just don't feel safe going anyplace. They just don't feel safe being around people. So they form their own little communities, and that's where they're happy to be. Whether we like it or not, I guess we have to accept it, and I do. Certainly there's mental health issues there. There's no doubt about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Friedlieb?
I say I mix and match on some of my answers earlier, but for the homeless, it's acquiring basic needs such as food and shelter and a sense of belonging. I think we need to seek to coordinate civic organizations, local churches, and governmental agencies to assist them accordingly. I've actually taken the time while walking down the street to talk to at least one of these people who turned out to be quite lucid and conversational and explained why they were in that circumstance. And it turns out, like I said before, these are in fact our neighbors and our brothers and sisters and our family members that are out there. They're community members. Wow, I'm bad on this phone of mine trying to do my notes. We need to provide opportunities to help them create solutions for their own circumstances. One might be such examples, finding some way to rehabilitate some of these buildings in town or apartments in town, so that you could have some kind of congregate living arrangement for them. But similar to like Habitat for Humanity does, you have to provide them with the opportunity for sweat equity so that they would be involved in the rehabilitation of that building in some capacity. All of this is very difficult to do, I'm sure, particularly like Mr. Henderson said, that there's mental health issues, and sometimes people just aren't capable of caring for themselves or engaging in a way that's going to be productive for themselves or the community. But primarily it's helping them acquire basic needs, food and shelter, and again, a sense of belonging in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Biondich?
Thank you. Seeing what has happened in our community with the homeless that wander the streets, that really have nowhere to go. I am in touch with one young lady that does stop in to see me. She is she's a very sweet person, but people look down on her because of the way she dresses, because of the way she looks. She avoids eye contact. Today I was able to offer her jackets, mittens. I asked her if she was warm, and she will come back to pick those up. Instead of turning away from them, we should be looking at how we can help them. And that involves our community resource officer, mental health. They need help with that, with mental health, and our police officers. It's trying to network all the different agencies that can help them. If they refuse the help, I'm not quite sure where we can go from there, but we have to at least try and help them. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baraboo?
Okay, you folks out there in the audience may not like to hear what I'm going to say right now. Homeless in this community is not a good thing, but the homeless need to help themselves. They need to go back to programs that they had a number of years ago, where if you didn't work, you didn't get the help as a taxpayer entity. Those things need to happen again. We suggested a program through the Pharmacy Association many years ago that if an individual was on a package through one of the social services system, if they worked, they should get a 25% bonus in dollars from the state of Minnesota. You know what the answer was we got from the state? Well, we can't track it. The hell they can't track it. They have to do it for income verification if they give them any money through the social services system. They just copped out on that. That would give them an incentive to go look for work, to start looking at housing, to start improving their lives. Every time you jump a step, you would jump another step to get improving your lives. Now, I feel sorry for anybody that's homeless, don't get me wrong. But we need to have the government do some things that will actually help them in the end. Zoning, buildings can't be just put into apartments. You have to relook at the zoning, how they're zoned, what kind of repairs have to be made. You can't just throw individuals into these buildings that are empty in Virginia. They're going in there, they're starting fires, doing all kinds of things. Ask our fire department how many fires and stuff they put out in these buildings. It's not fair to you as taxpayers that we have to look at all these social services programs and provide dollars. I provide dollars. I give to these programs. Don't get me wrong. I spent a lot of years looking at this, but they need to start helping themselves. You got all kinds of organizations. The last thing, we need a central location that they can go to for all the service. There is no place in Virginia. They're all set out there all over the place. They don't have a central location for help.
Thank you. Ms. Bachschneider?
I've been a social worker for 32 years. The first 25 of those were in Child Protective Services. And the last 7 years, I've been serving as the triage social worker for North St. Louis County. I'm acutely aware of the challenges for people experiencing homelessness as I do this work daily. Our region has a lack of shelters, low barrier mental health and chemical health services, and affordable housing that's willing and able to serve this population. A very small amount of people choose to be homeless for multiple reasons, but the vast majority do not choose to be without a home. There are support options available, but the wait lists are long. Currently, there's 135 households. This is not just individual people. This is individual people. This is families. So 135 households who have already been assessed for their needs and on a priority list for supportive housing in North St. Louis County. These are individuals and families who have reached out for help and have gone through all the processes to get the help they need. I would like to see a regional approach to develop low barrier, temporary shelters, warming shelters in the winter, much like Duluth has for their residents. I was very happy to see the city cooperating with the Range Transitional Housing Program for them to develop a 4-unit family emergency support housing program. I'm very happy that the city is investing in our public safety by having a resource officer, and I was thrilled when our police department is cooperating with Range Mental Health Center and having a crisis team that works hand in hand with our law enforcement and our ambulance services. These are things that make me so happy and so proud to be in Virginia when I see the lead that that type of service has had for our friends and families who are less fortunate than us.
Thank you. Mayor Cuffey?
Thank you. You know, this tugs at your heartstrings. You see these people that are in need. They need our help. They need services. They need the opportunity. But there's a lot of challenges that we have. And the homeless population is on the rise. Bed and shelter space are at a premium. Economics, alcohol abuse, and mental health are key factors as we struggle to develop and save the homeless in Virginia and address this problem. We have very few resources. We've deployed trained police officers, firefighter paramedics, and EMTs to identify, to treat, and if possible, find temporary emergency shelter to those who are willing to accept it. The officers and EMS personnel keep apprised of the location of the homeless encampments. We also partner with and rely upon the compassion of the churches, the volunteer organizations, our residentials and business population to report those who might be in crisis. Most available organizations do not have the means to address those who are under the influence of alcohol or drugs. If they have space available, if you're under the influence of alcohol or drugs, you can't come there. So we have an organization. I'm part of that organization, and a bunch of people in this community If you need help and the homeless, they don't have any help, there's two types. There's the homeless and there's a transient population. We need to establish public and private partnerships to develop warming centers to help shelter these homeless from the frigid cold and provide basic sustenance, or provide them, which we've done in the past with a private partnership, bus tickets to go to Phoenix, Arizona to a warmer climate in the wintertime for those who are transient. But those who are homeless that choose to live here year-round, we need to give them some help. We dedicated a full-time officer, service community resource to coordinate and collaborate with service organizations and Range Mental Health Mobile Crisis Unit. I sit on the Range Mental Health Board. I know how important that is. An outreach office is located in the Uptown Mall. Rats.
Thank you, Mayor Cuffey. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. I appreciate all the comments everybody has up here. Homelessness is a challenge in the city of Virginia, and as people have said, it's important to remember that not every person who is homeless wants or needs help. It'd be easy for me to say, to wave a magic wand and spend money here, spend money there. And my children would tell me it can't be magic, it needs to be science. Our social service department and several nonprofits are actively involved in providing assistance to those who seek it and accept it. People with housing insecurities often have multiple challenges, contributing factors, as have been listed here already. Mental health challenges, chemical dependency issues, financial burdens, other barriers. We just don't always have the full picture. And to reiterate what's been said up here, I do know from my ride-alongs that our staff are acutely aware of the needs in our community. They're always checking in on folks walking down the street. They're checking to make sure the people that are sleeping under the tarps are sleeping under the tarps. It's a problem that's bigger than what the city can solve by itself. And as we move forward, we really need to work together as a community. And I just want to thank Ms. Bachschneider for the work you do, because it really does make a big difference in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And from Ms. Motley, she says, resources are and always have been our greatest challenge to the homeless population, with cold winters and a shortage of viable long-term options. We can correct this by engaging in a community-focused program that includes improved access to care, resources to include rehabilitation, education, social programs that have proven outcomes, and apply them to our community. Okay, 2 questions left now. Number 5, describe at least one big issue facing the city council and mayor that needs to be addressed within this next year. And we'll start with Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. There's been several that have come up already this afternoon, one of them being the rental code. And I think that it's important to know that we're almost there. In early 2023, hopefully we have a rental code that's been enacted. But I think that the next big public issue that needs to be addressed is going to be determined by you. It's going to be up to us as elected officials to listen to you and to take note of what you're saying to us, because each of you is going to have a different idea. And then we need to work together to prioritize that as we move forward. If I'm elected to the mayor, I will set up regular office hours at City Hall where people will be welcome to come in and visit. Informal, quiet settings, just sitting in a couple of chairs having a conversation. I would also like to bring back the bi-monthly coffee and conversations that Councilor Biondich pushed pre-pandemic. I feel it was an excellent tool to get out into the community in a very safe, neutral place where we could listen to concerns and we could bring those back and talk about them. It helps us to engage people who may be uncomfortable coming to a formal setting at Lake City Hall. As always, I am open to listening to concerns and suggestions. Everybody knows where I live too. Everybody has my phone number. It's on the website too, email. I think it's something that as we move forward, we need to work together as a community to make our community better.
Thank you. Mayor Cuffey?
Well, there's not just one issue. And these issues that I'm going to list out to you today, this afternoon, is the issues that you've come to me for, you've come to the council for. And it is important that we address every single one. Sure, we have to prioritize them, these are the same issues and the challenges that our the previous mayors and the previous councilors had the same, and they worked diligently to get to where we're at. It's all about the Benjamins. It's all about having money available moving forward. But roads and street repairs, finding the funding to continue to fund our 5-year road and street plan. Our roads and streets are decimated. Why haven't we fixed them before? Because we had a steam system that was old and antiquated, and you could build new roads on top of old structure. So now that everyone sacrificed to have their steam converted, this is the time in which to implement that 5-year plan. And the city council, working with partners, are able to do that. And there was partners available years ago when Councilor Henderson was on the council, and when Mayor Russo was on the council and was a mayor, they did the very same thing, tried to fix our roads and streets. Neighborhood revitalization, constructing the new public safety building, blight remediation, neighborhood revitalization, the homeless, and the staffing of our public safety. We can't keep police officers because of the issues that we're facing today. We used to get a lot of applicants. Now we only get 4, 5, 6 applicants for a position. You want to try to get the top 5% if you can. Very difficult. The salary and benefit package are not commensurate. We made that adjustment this year to try to accommodate that, but it is a big, huge place on our budget because 82% of our entire budget are our labor costs. That leaves us 18 to 20% to run the city with that, and that's difficult. And I think the current city council has been sitting on it today. They've done a good job with the budget, have a good job at listing everything out and trying to make sure that we provide the services that need to be provided. That's important.
Thank you. Councilor Friedli?
The one big issue that I look at is we undertook a very ambitious project, taking 2 square city blocks and purchasing and trying to acquire 50 some odd properties to be raised to build a brand new public safety training facility. We're currently in the midst of that, and in the midst of that, we lost our community planner, who was the lead on that project. So that's a hit for that project in and of itself. But then the other thing is too that, somebody came to me and said, you're going to be tearing down 50 houses in town, many of which, not all of which, but many of which provided revenue to the city for property taxes. What kind of plan did you have in place to replace that revenue when you're going to be building a public entity as opposed to private that provided revenue to the city? The other issue with regard to that is, like I said, it's an enormously ambitious project, but a much needed project. We've only been appropriated about $9.5 million for a $30 million project, which means we're only about $20 million short on that. And so that's another huge consideration in terms of how we're going to be able to complete that project and find the necessary funding to be able to get that accomplished. So that's a huge issue for me in terms of my responsibility on the council to see this through. Thank you.
Councilor Baraboo?
Skipping you. Okay, that is a big issue that's on everybody's plate down in City Council right now. And one of the things that's holding money up for that project is the state of Minnesota with their lack of finishing up their legislative session. In one particular area where we have money requested from the federal government for this project, and one department down there is sitting on it and won't let it pass through. It's been passed through the House and the Senate for dollars, waiting to have full vote on it and then have the governor sign it, and that's not happened. We may lose that federal funding, and that's going to be a big, big issue. But some of the issues that we need to look at, some good news. Essentia Health is planning to build a new hospital here in Virginia. Not as big as the old one, but to build a new one. That'll happen within the next 2 to 5 years. And that is information that we're privy to that is going to happen. They will eventually, if I'm still on the council, will own the clinic building also. Those become taxable entities. So we have the new hotel coming in. That's a taxable entity that will be here to replace the loss from the public safety sector. We've done stuff to increase our ambulance service to 34 people, to increase our police department to, I believe, 28 people now, Larry? How many is it now? 24, 25? Okay, well, I lost count because we've lost some in between to other entities. But we need to keep that level of stuff up here in this city of Virginia. We've had to make adjustments for salaries that are above and beyond the normal contract salaries in order to keep our officers. We've given them a one-time increase coming up here. I can't tell you what it is yet because it's not formally through yet, but we're going to be doing that. We just have all these issues, but some of them will be good in the end, and will make up for lost revenue in other places. Thank you.
Mr. Henderson?
Getting that rental code in place, and I'm glad to hear that you're looking at the first part of 2023. That's very important. Funding the 5-year street and alley plan. The mayor alluded, yes, I was a counselor at that time. Charlie was. I served on the street and alley committee. It made it so much easier having that because you knew that you had funds that you could go to. You could get your bids out earlier. It made it easier for us to plan projects into the future. People would come to you and say, when's my street going to get fixed? You could look at the list and say, it'll be fixed in 2 years. And it got done. It made it so much easier for everybody. Other things that I think we should take a look at, maybe repurposing some of the things that the city owns. The city owns a lot. I was really, when I asked that question, I said, what does the city own? And I almost had a dull headache when I found out just exactly how much the city does own. And what can we do with it? You know, can we get rid of some of it, you know, to private entities, whatever? I think that's a discussion that the council needs to do. But for sure, we also had a 10-year capital improvement plan, and that disappeared off the books. You can't control what councilors do after you're not a councilor anymore. But you sure wish that they would do what's right for the community and keep the programs that are in place. But unfortunately, they disappeared. So we're going to have to start from ground zero and work over again. And hopefully we can get the funding to get things going so that people are happy with progress. You hate listening to, I do. It's tough listening to people complaining about our streets and things like that. But if you go to other communities, they're not that much better. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bachschneider?
Budget, that would be, I think, the biggest issue we have right now, and I agree with the mayor and everybody else that there's so many issues, and when I've gone out door knocking, I hear them, I agree with them, but without money, we can't do anything. I think we need to enter into agreements and cooperate with other communities to cut the costs, share resources with our neighboring cities. I listen to the city council meetings and I completely concur with like Mr. Baraboo, the rising costs of everything. It's hard to budget when you think something costs this much, and then with everything, as we all know, now it's way more. So it's tough. It's really tough. But cooperation will equal mutual benefit. And it's important to keep in mind that competition should not be between the cities, but it should be between regions. I don't believe any of our local cities have the resources all by themselves to attract the tourism, provide all the services that us as citizens that we need and expect, while competing with larger communities. Cooperation will allow us to recognize our shared problems, and as we learned today, we have a lot of shared problems, to come up with a regional solution. Since you have to start somewhere, my recommendation would be to start with the ambulance and fire service. Mutual aid is already well-established practice, and formalizing a plan with our neighbors needs to be explored and established. There's lots of ways that we can work together. I think the Rock Ridge School, although there's bumps, we're working together, we're combining these things, and I believe that we'll be stronger together. It's just ripping off the Band-Aid and putting ourselves out there to do that.
Thank you. Councillor Biondich.
I'm thankful I'm last because they really touched on a lot that I had written down. My number one priority is also the funding for the new public safety building. that has been really high on my list. It is much needed, but it is also scary when you see all the parts that are put into that and where the funding is coming from. I'm also on the shared fire service with Mountain Iron, and I wanted to be on that because I grew up in Mountain Iron. I know a lot of the people in Mountain Iron, and that is the place that we can meet and talk, and we discuss sharing equipment, possibly personnel, but it's a good group to belong to and get that conversation started that each community, it's getting harder and harder for them to hold the services and be able to fund everything they want to fund alone. We can be better together. The rental code ordinance is another one that I've recently been intrigued by and started going to all the meetings to learn what that is. And I know it scares some of the people, but I assure you, the rental code ordinance will be for the citizens that will be living in those buildings. I want to assure them that they will be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. And from Ms. Motley, the biggest issue facing the council and mayor is the upcoming proposed rental code ordinance for the city of Virginia. The city council will vote on it in January, I believe. Okay, this is the last question we have for you, and then we'll be opening it up for questions and answers from the audience. So the question is, are there ways we can successfully share services with surrounding communities? What can you do to move this along? And we'll start with Mayor Cuppy.
Okay, thank you. The biggest issue we have is parochialism, the ability to bring other communities together for a common goal and objective. We compartmentalize all our services. We want to have our own fire service. We have our own police department. We have the own thing. So breaking those barriers is a huge issue. But we can overcome it, but it's going to take some time, and it's going to take the community to demand it, to come together for that. So it is a significant barrier. But what are some of the things that we could do? If we can get these communities together, if we can stand together, it's the same old things that we've had many, many times before. Here's some of the things that we can share. There are others. Law enforcement. Why don't we have a Quad City Police Department? You share your services. It's the same type of organization. We all contribute. We all save money as a result of it. Shared maintenance equipment. We have big trucks. Evans has big trucks. Gilbert has big trucks, whatever. If they need some help, we need to share that maintenance equipment. We do a little bit with the utilities, but we need to share in other communities. So if we have one big, huge piece of equipment that costs $500,000, maybe we can share that. So maintenance equipment is an issue as well. Animal shelter and services. We pay like $45,000 a year just for animal service for City of Virginia. And what the service do we get? They need a new animal shelter. They need a new place for walking your dogs. We need to find a community where you can take your dog somewhere, you can get the animal services, and so not one community has animal control in all 4 communities. So that's another thing. And warming shelters and safe spaces for the homeless. Not just a Virginia problem, a Quad Cities problem. And we need to share and find a way in which to find some place where we can help these people stay warm, get some sustenance, and try to find a way in which to combine all these together with our services. And then we need, I think, to share an economic development director. We had a great one before and we lost it.
Thank you. Councilor Johnson?
Thank you. Virginia already partners in several areas, as the mayor had mentioned. The ambulance, the fire department have mutual aid agreements. The police department works cooperatively with all of the local law enforcement in the area. The Virginia Airport is another great example. Recently, the charter was changed on that to be a more independent entity, and the progress made at that airport over the last year and a half has been amazing. I think one of the important things is that when we come to the table with our community partners, we need to come as equals. It can't be the City of Virginia solving everybody's problems. It can't be the City of Mountain Iron asking for help. We need to come as equals. We need to come as people all looking for common good. And I think that can helped facilitate it through the Laurentian Chamber of Commerce. They have already done amazing things in the last, I was on the board probably 15 years ago, and people come from all over the community to move the entire community forward. I think that's a great opportunity that governments can model, and maybe we can take some pointers from them. Sharing the large equipment and additional resources will take a lot of planning, a lot of cooperation, and a lot of agreements. It is city government. Government moves at the pace of government, sometimes forward, sometimes backwards, and sometimes not at all. As mayor, I will truly try to ask the right questions, listen, and learn how we can better move together as a community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baraboo.
Okay, just for information, we already are sharing equipment with the other cities. When they have a big, huge problem, say you got a big sewer backup someplace, so our vacuum truck will go over there if it's requested by another community. We'll send it over to help them out. If we get something else in another community where they need our equipment, a big loader, a big backhoe or something like that, we go over and help and we dig. We have longer backhoe equipment with the tongs that go down to dig up stuff, so we do help. We have all those mutual aid agreements, which I mentioned before, 26 of them around the northern part of Minnesota for our fire and ambulance service. We also send, not just periodically, but very often, members of our police force to other communities to help when there's situations with shootings, drugs, whatever it might be. If they don't have enough St. Louis County police officers there, don't have enough of their own city police, they call for help from the city of Virginia. We go. The other thing that we need to really look at that I believe is important, that the citizens of Virginia and the surrounding communities, this is regional. We have to get that new hospital built in Virginia, and they are looking at it seriously. We just sold that land to Essentia Health for $86,000 plus expenses. They now own the campus of Virginia where the hospital sits. We do not. We got out of the business, which we should have done a long time ago. Now they need to get their clinic connected to that, and then they will build new. We have a couple more years of payments left on that clinic building because we own it right now. Actually, the HRA does through us, and we get payments on that. Those will become available, that land, and we're going to work a deal with Essentia to pick up that property and build their new hospital in between. So that's important for the whole region. We're all getting older. I'm getting older. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Biondich.
Thank you. This will be short and sweet. I believe in open communication with other communities. We need to work together, be stronger, share our resources, and share our equipment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Friedlieb.
You know, Councillor Mayor Cuffey mentioned earlier that the upwards of 80% of a city budget is spent on personnel. And the reason that is because that's where the value lies in a city organization. It's the people doing the job, not necessarily the job that needs to be gotten done. And I truly believe that. And not to harp again on the city planner, but again, we lost an experienced, capable, competent individual, and we need to find another one. Someone that will be able to develop and assist in the dialogue within the Quad Cities and research where this has been done before for shared services so that we might be able to do it productively as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Henderson.
Well, I believe that, excuse me, that we do need to start thinking more on a regional type idea. It's been talked about, it's been pushed by certain people, and I think Virginia should be the first city to reach out to all the other communities and see if there is interest. When I was on the council in, like I said before, 98 to 2001, the school came to us looking for a piece of land to put up the Parkview Elementary School. And at that time, the school was thinking, well, we'll build a school big enough, we'll bring Mountain Iron in on it too. Well, they didn't have a real open discussion with Mountain Iron. And those people over there got really upset about it, and they turned around and built their own elementary school and said, forget it. So if you don't get together with surrounding communities to build strength, then I firmly believe if we can get together with Biwabic and Gilbert and Eveleth and Aurora Hoyt Lakes or whatever, and go down to St. Paul with strength, we'll get what we need for this area. But if we keep having they said parochialism, believe it or not, there's still that stigma between Eveleth and Virginia. I think we all know that. I don't know how you get over that hurdle, other than reaching out and saying, we need to do this. Charlie, you can remember back when we had a meeting with the Eveleth City Council about the ambulance and fire service. And you also brought up about sales tax. We asked for a 0.25% sales tax back in the late 90s for helping fund the ambulance service. And our state representative at that time said it'd be over his dead body, he'd bring that down to St. Paul. And that was very,
Thank
very
you.
disappointing.
Thank you. Ms. Bachschneider.
Well, I was silently cheering here when Mayor Cuffey and Councillor Johnson were making their statements, because I'm like, yeah, totally. And I can't say better, so I'm really not going to. I agree with Maya that, Councillor Biondich, that transparency is very important. I agree that you don't go to the table arrogant. I joke that my son-in-law is an Eveleth boy. And I say if my daughter, who was voted the most blue pride ever in the history of the world and bled blue, can marry an Eveleth football player, well, really, I think anything can happen. We just really need the right people, really approaching it in a kind way. Like I said, I've been a triage social worker, which is a really cool thing the county has invested in, where we do bring in, there's myself, we have different departments in there as well, we have community partners. We've been doing this for almost 7 years. And we don't have the territory, we work together. So when someone comes in, we can help them together. We're not fighting over either who gets to help them or who has to help them. We know our strengths and we work together, and that's really what we need to do here in our region. We need to be together as a region. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the formal questions we have. If someone in our audience has a question they'd like to address, would you please come down here so we can get you on the microphone?
Hi, my name is Kathy, and I watch all the city council meetings. And a couple things. There has been some kind of rancor between the city council toward the mayor, toward business people who have come to speak at the council meeting, and so I would like somebody to address that.
Anyone in particular?
Probably Mr. Baraboo.
Okay, thank you very much for that question, and I'm guessing that's probably directed at me because I do make some pretty stark statements on council meetings about things. When people come forward and haven't done their research and don't know the outcome of things that happen, we're looking at this cannabis plant stuff, edible stuff, and being in my profession, you see the dangers and you see it and everything you see on TV of what it can do to a community. There's no controls. There's you can take 5 different things at one time. You can get up past the ETH levels that you need to be safe with these things. State of Minnesota hasn't directed anything. So I've been an issue with some of them, and I've said some things to some of our counselors. But sometimes they're not thinking down the road of what's going to happen with their statements and what they make. So I do. But we go away friends afterwards. I don't keep any animosity. Those are things that you discuss and you debate. And if somebody can't stand it, they don't belong on a city council. Because there are debatable things that you have to discuss with deep sincerity and what your beliefs are and what the citizens have told you as a counselor. That's where I am. Now, if you have more specific things you would like to, I know it's directed at me, because I have done those things, I'll be honest with you. And I don't fault you for that at all. That's part of your rights as a citizen, so. Well, there is civility and there is discussion, but there's times when civility is not there, when the outcome and the statements that are made are not true. And that's where when I get fly off the handle a little bit. So thank you for your question.
Thank
I
you.
hold no animosity, so don't worry about that. I'll talk to you tomorrow if you want.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Louis Russo. I don't have questions. I've got some suggestions. The first one is a thing that's bothered me for a long, long time, and that's the fact that Minneapolis and St. Paul and the metro area there thinks that we see the news releases that the highest crime rate is in Virginia, Minnesota. That's wrong, mainly because we are the central point for everything from Duluth to International Falls. They get arrested here and they get listed as a Virginia resident. And it's wrong, but it's scaring people away from here. I know that for a fact. The other thing is, you've got a Main Street, and I was part of it, well, not the Main Street, but anything that was built on the Main Street after the original fire is basically 1910, 1912, 1914. Virginia, Minnesota was the 5th largest city in the state of Minnesota in 1910, believe it or not. However, fallen straight down, and there's a thing called a historic deal for buildings. Most of the buildings on the Main Street, if they haven't been changed too much, qualify to be a historic building. And that gives you a 20% tax break every single year that you spend $5,000. And I have about 15 more, but I'm not going to take up any more time.
Thank you.
I'd like our city council to address Blight. You come across the Tom Rukavina Bridge, beautiful scenery, and what's the first thing you see is debris. Granted, someone slapped some blue paint on a building that made it look a little bit better, but I think as citizens, you get used to seeing that. And you don't see that it's a detriment. So then you turn the corner and you go down 2nd Avenue. And what do you see there? And granted, with the new health and safety building, that'll improve it, but there's a lot of blight. And I'm sorry, I don't agree with the statement that it's from elderly homeowners. I think what it is, it's from having too many rental properties in Virginia. I would love to know how many rental properties there are. These owners take no pride in their buildings. The only thing they worry about is the first of the month when they're getting their rent. And how many, you can go on the County Land Explorer and find out how many are current on their property taxes. So don't tell me that the city of Virginia is making money off this.
Thank you. Did you have a specific question for
So
one
I
of
would
the
like to
panel?
know, as counselors, what are you going to do about blight?
I think that's more of a general question. Let's go down the line and allow 1 minute for each answer.
Okay, great question. Blight is a problem, no question about it. So, along 2nd Avenue, that corner lot there as you turn into 2nd Avenue, that's owned by the state of Minnesota. And we, as a council and our administrator, has been trying to work with the state of Minnesota to get possession of that, to buy it, to have them give it to us so we can use that for economic development. The state owns that property. They need to clean it up. We've cleaned it up a little bit, but you're right, it's bad and it needs to be addressed immediately. And then we have the business along 2nd Avenue. Blight is not only at the entrance to Virginia, which gives you the first impression, but there's blight all over town. And our blight officer got stacks of blight there. We have a law in place, an ordinance. Send them a letter, clean up in 10 days. They don't fine them. They don't comply, we fine them again, we fine them again. But 99% of the landlords are fantastic. It's the 1% that create most of the blight in this rental properties. And I think, if I'm correct, 34% are rental properties in the city of Virginia.
40. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We need to relook at the blight ordinance. We had just started this discussion at the last meeting or a meeting before of pulling up the blight ordinance, looking at it and seeing why, and Councilor Biondich will bring this up, I'm sure. Why do people have to put their names on a blight concern next door to them? What can we do better so that people can file a complaint and then we go? A friend of mine lives in Midway, and on a certain street, a piece of property has been argued about several times. She took me there. I turned around, and the thing across the street was 100 times worse, but nobody has filed a complaint on it. We need to do a better job of figuring out how to organize and file and follow up on our blight ordinances and what we're doing. And I think that's something that the next council needs to put on their priority list as we move forward.
Thank you.
Agree 100% that blight is a huge problem. When I was out door knocking, you could very much see you'd be cute house, cute house, cute house. Ooh, I don't think I want to go there. Cute house, cute house. Ooh, where you get nervous. Of course, being a social worker, I've gone out on home visits for years. I think the rental code ordinance will be helpful. I'm hopeful of that. Mayor heard 34%. When I talked to someone on planning and zoning, they thought it was closer to 50% of the units in town. I was shocked. And then they explained, well, that you have to look at like the high rises and things like that. Those are all rentals. So when you look at that number, that made more sense to me. But I absolutely agree. We need to do something. I think it's silly that someone has to call. When they call, they have to give their name. I understand when Britt C. Bennis did explain it, it made sense to me, but I think it's silly. You don't have to use your name anywhere else when you file a complaint.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to give you an example. I live in the Lencia Edition on South Side, between 8th Street and 13th Street. Right now in a 3-block area, and I'm not happy about this, and there's nothing I can do about it. There are 8 group homes there of 6 or less in that area, in a 3-block area. There are no federal, no state laws that allow that many group homes to be in a neighborhood that close together, which devaluates our homes in that area. And that upsets me. There's nothing I can do about it. The state and federal laws, they're considered residential homes like yours or mine that we own. So what do you think about something like that? That needs to be addressed at the federal and state level, so they can't be considered just a residential residence. They're a business. They're all owned by one company out of Chisholm. How do you address that as a city when the laws don't allow you to address it with zoning or anything? The zoning ordinance can't help us.
Thank you. This is near and dear to my heart, and I have talked about this at many of our meetings. Our blight ordinance, the way it reads right now, a private citizen has to sign their name when they file that complaint, and I think that's wrong. These people live in the neighborhoods, and they don't want to be signing their names to a piece of paper that if it goes to court, this is what it is. We have a blight officer. We are opening and revisiting this blight ordinance because of this. I think a lot of people that live in these neighborhoods are afraid to file a complaint. And I think it needs to be a little bit, we are getting overrun where people don't want to come forward and speak. I have turned in 4 properties myself. People will come to me and tell me, I go look at them, and I turn them in on their behalf. It shouldn't be that difficult, and maybe that is the reason people are not coming forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have city personnel hired as a blight officer, so I would suggest the city administration to task that blight officer to inventory throughout the city and prioritize the blight circumstances or situations and start addressing those from a priority standpoint. That's what I would suggest, since we have somebody hired to do that. And beauty is in the eye of the beholder, to be honest with you. And those that live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. In all due respect, we spent $200,000 on a hotel in Midway that sits there with boarded up and busted out windows as soon as you enter Midway. We, the city of Virginia, own a huge blight problem ourselves that hasn't been addressed. So, you know, that bothers me as well, that we're pointing fingers throughout the city at everybody else that needs to do something when we need to do it ourselves. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Blight's been a problem in this city for many years. It's the same issues that come up, and Councilor Friedley brought up a great point. It's hard to enforce a blight ordinance when people look across the street at city property and it's not being taken care of appropriately. And I don't think this problem is unique just to Virginia. I think every city's facing this particular issue. That might be another thing when we talk about a regional. That might be another thing that we can sit down and discuss with other cities on what kind of plans that they have, what they're doing that might be right to help us out. I do believe the rental code will help out. And hopefully, maybe down the road, we can get the state legislature to pass a new law that says, if you don't fix up your property, you forfeit it. That'll really help.
Thank you. Time for one more question?
If anyone needs the microphone brought to them, just raise your hand.
Thanks, Ann.
Early on, I think it was Mayor Cuffey was talking about LGA, and it sounded like LGA is at risk. My question is that because the House and the Senate couldn't come to an agreement during the last session? Or is it because is somebody or some group specifically going out after LGA?
Would you like the mayor to answer that, or someone else on the panel?
Whoever knows about LGA, I just remember Mayor Cuffey talked about it.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, is it somebody is going after our LGA, or is it this whole part of the state government was dysfunctional?
There's a big list, and we can provide that for you, of all the cities that get local government aid. And it's no secret, it's a public information that the city of Virginia gets more local government aid than any other city in the whole region. $6.2 million. We're going to get that this year. It's already been allocated according to our finance director. We have that money in play. But we're unique because we are considered to be a poverty environment where our taxes are low, our homes are old, difficulty attracting business, we're a landlocked community. There's a lot of factors that go involved in that. And so that's why we get that much money. We are getting threatened by the big communities down in the metro area who do not believe that local government aid. They don't get it. Why should we get it? But their tax base is so high. And so they're not going after the local government aid so much as they're going after the formula that puts together local government aid.
Okay. I think that's what I wanted to know.
Thank you. So that's the end of our questions for tonight. Feel free to talk with one of our AAUW members to find out more about our organization if you'd like. And I'd like to thank our audience and also thanks to you, our candidates.